Next up, we have Arman Tsarukyan versus Joel Alvarez. Tsarukyan coming in as a negative 220 favorite versus Alvarez as a plus 180 underdog. Fern, what do you think of this fight?
So Tsarukyan has an interesting name during multiple fights. People were joking about, Hadouken, or it sounds very Street Fighter-like, and he is very tough. I'm going to break down his last fight against, another connection we have between the undercard and the main event. He fought Makhachev, and where he had an amazing showing. Honestly, if anyone gets a chance to watch this is probably one of my favorite grappling, fighting, all-around mixed martial arts fights. After watching this, I watched this thing on loop like 3 or 4 times. Crazy grappling, crazy fighting, just transitions were non-stop. He was able to take Makhachev down for the first time in his career. And watching it over and over, just seeing the little things that Makhachev does, the hand fighting, the gripping. In wrestling, I know there's a move called the seatbelt. Here they've been calling it, what do they call it? The Dagestani handcuff. And and he's able to navigate that. So against Makhachev does a good job of controlling his hands, controlling his wrists, all these little things that he's just able to turn out of. And in all these positions where opponents have been dominated, Tsarukyan was able to attack. And that was on the back foot, defensively, on the ground, keeping rolling. The transitions are amazing. In one, he slipped an overhand right. Makhachev shot. He underhooks him, gets him to take him down, and then he looks to go for a Kimura. And with that Kimura, he's able to turn him and reverse him. He was mounted with one arm pinned at one point, and people thinking that Makhachev was going to finish him, but he's able to just push down, pull his legs through. That famous leg hold that Khabib did against Conor and has done against other people, where they're kind of like in guard but have their legs between theirs and are just have him pinned against the cage. He was put in that, but was able to slide out and then use the butterfly guard and stand up. The way he navigates grappling-wise against stronger people is something that I'm very excited about this next fight. Very offensive wrestling. Again, like I mentioned, every time you thought he got taken down, then he got clinched or pinned against the cage, he turned it into something offensively. And eventually, was able to get a takedown on Makhachev. While pinned against the cage, Makhachev threw a high knee. He grabbed him to go for the dump. They spread out, but he continued to just drive through and got the takedown, took his back. Makhachev, of course, great grappling, great wrestling, was able to turn out of it, get it stood back up, and they started going back out. So those are things that I'm very interested to see how he's going to be able to adjust with somebody like Alvarez. I don't know if you got a chance to watch his fights. Dude is 6'3" at 155. Outrageous.
Yeah, that is crazy.
Outrageous. It's been 3 years since his last loss. He obviously uses his height very well. At 6'3", his legs let him dart in and out like in 1 or 2 steps. And, even in darting out, he takes 1 step back, throws a kick, is still attacking while on the back foot. Punches to close and kicks to keep the distance nonstop. At one point he was in the guard and was able to extend his guard, throw some elbows, throw some punches, and able to distract him and do an interesting clinch to go for an armbar. So his arms are long enough that he just, is attacking the arms. The guy's, on top of him in guard. And he grabs like an overhook and then grabs an underhook and pins the guy's arm. The guy's throwing a punch. He pins it and he just hugs his shoulder and then rotates to armbar from that position. It works for him because he's 6'3". I don't know how long his reach is, but I was like, what in the world? He's do you remember Kendall Grove, who was an Ultimate Fighter from Hawaii, who was 6'8" at middleweight, and just they always just got these weird submissions because he was just so big and lanky. At one point he was side mounted and was able to do that Dagestani handcuff, grab the his opponent's back arm, slide out, roll him, and then was able to finish him with punches and elbows. Very exciting fight. It's going to be a tall striker versus a shorter all-around fighter. I think this is one of the best fight night cards in a long time, and I'm almost as excited about this card after watching the highlights and fights as I was about the Adesanya card. Absolutely, there's just well-rounded, very close competition in all these matches.
Yeah, and I can't wait to see Tsarukyan, because his wrestling, like you mentioned, I did see that fight against Makhachev, and his wrestling is off the charts. It is crazy, and it's very high paced, kind of chain wrestling where it's reversal after reversal that he's capable of doing. He doesn't just sit and lay on the ground if he gets taken down, and he goes to work if he's the one taking the other guy down. It'll be really interesting to see. You mentioned how tall Alvarez is, and I remember wrestling guys who were much taller than me, and it was so frustrating, especially if you don't train with really tall guys and you're a wrestler, because lots of stuff that would normally work against an average height person does not work against a super tall guy. So some simple things, just like taking a single leg on a guy who has that much height advantage on you, it's so strange, especially if you don't train it a lot. That feeling like this guy should be going down right now, but you just can't get the leverage because the guy's so tall and he's able to wrap himself around you. So I'm really curious to see how that tall, lanky Alvarez is going to hold up against Tsarukyan, because I feel like Tsarukyan is still the stronger grappler, the stronger wrestler. But we'll see if that height advantage, if Alvarez is able to use it and do some of that awkward stuff that really tall guys can do in wrestling.
No, definitely. You bring up a good point. Height, people don't understand the mathematics behind height. I remember one time I was training in a gym in Medford, and I was throwing head kicks. I'm a soccer player. I can kick a ball almost full field, just tagging the bob that was there. And then this lanky dude comes in and is able to just do a head kick and knock over the bob. And I'm I'm tagging it, not moving it, nothing. But he was just able, the angle he was hitting it was just knocking it over. And I was like, man, there really is, the physics, whatever you want to call it, the fight physics. I don't know, but I was pissed because I was like, I'm kicking harder and he's knocking it down, and I'm trying to, he's not, he can't even kick right.
Yeah, and Tsarukyan is 5'7", Joel Alvarez is 6'3", and so that's 8 inches difference in height. It'll make a big difference, and I'm curious if Tsarukyan has the right kind of training partners. I'm sure as an experienced wrestler as he is, he knows that it matters, who you're preparing against. So it'll be interesting to see this one. I can't wait to see the wrestling that goes down in this match.
Absolutely.